Okay, so today we're going to talk about encumbrance. I'm going to try to do a few more videos just talking about the basics of the system and how it all works, which I think will help a lot of people because everyone is struggling with how do I do this, where do I change these values, but if you don't understand what the values do, it means nothing. You can't really make any advanced mods or anything interesting. So we're going to talk about the encumbrance system, what it does, what it means. Mostly it's a movement thing. So once you hit a certain amount of encumbrance, you can no longer move, and that's pretty much it. So let's look at why that is. First, we look at base BP combat, which inherits from base BP care. So that is the basics of your character system. Every tick, it goes through a movement system. It does a parent check and some other stuff, but the essence is it's going to go through and check all the physics, make sure that you're not being blocked by stuff and whatever else. The very first thing we do though is we go through and say, hey, are we encumbered? So we see here there's a get components by tag, and it's looking for anything with the BP Encumbrance System that it also has the encumbered system in there. That means any inventory, anything like that it finds, it's going to go through all those and decide what tier. A quick explanation of tiering as I understand it, which may be slightly off. As you get more encumbered, you go through its tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 means you're dead stopped. You can't move. I don't know if they're going to implement more, but I think they only implement 4 right now. It may be they thought 3 would slow you down or limit what type of actions you can do, which it might, but we're just going to talk about movement for now. I think it's enough to understand that. So we go in and make sure what tier you're in. If you're in 4, you can see here it sets your walk speed to 0, crouch speed to 0, swim speed to 0, and sets all of your things on sprint. It's saying basically it's not in sprint. So it prevents you from running. I think the other tiers will let you not sprint as well. And there's some other pieces to that. I think it's handle state change. I'm not real sure on that one. So anyways, important part is we understand what's going on here and how it gets these numbers. So the second piece is we want to look at the BP Encumbrance System. So this guy, excuse me, let's go. Not there. And data loaded. Nope. So what it's going to do, so let me talk about the different pieces real quick. It's actually going to set the tier based on values that it gets for the encumbrance. What I'm looking for right now is the actual setting of the encumbered value, which should be, so this is the tiering, and it says which pieces you own. This is the loop. Handle over weight, set your speed. Let's see, there's one really nice spot. Equipment. So every time you add an item or it goes to look at your inventory, hotbar items, all that stuff, it'll loop through them and calculate each item's value and figure out where you're at and recalculate out your encumbrance. Let's see. Not there either. So I'm just looking for something very specific. Here we go. So this is the thing that actually calculates. So all those other things I was clicking through, this whole class, by the way, feel free to dig in. The entire encumbered system is right here for the picking. You can do whatever you want with it. we have this handle item encumbrance. That means for each item you pick up, put in inventory, put in your slot, or your hotbar down at the bottom, your shortcuts, that is going to calculate out the weight. So it does that through a couple of ways. Let's go through all of the different checks that it goes through. First thing it's going to do is game item is the actual item. It has the ID and the other important essential bits to it. So at this point we're going to go in, it's going to do sequence. It does some basic setups like set some variables for later on. Then it goes in and it's going to, if you're a camel or some other type of critter that can carry stuff, it has a people weight. So it does those calculations as well. So now if we go in, we're making sure that if there's actually change, the delta, it's making sure that it's not equal to 0. If it isn't, then we need to recalculate. If it is, then we're just going to calculate the item for a single item, or calculate the weight for a single item. So let's talk about that real quick. So if you added one new item, it'll grab that local game item, and then it's going to get the int stat for stack size, max stat size, and if it's greater than 0, then it's going to go in and say, cool, I'm going to multiply the number of things. So if you picked up 10, 10 stone, then it would multiply 10 times the encumbrance weight, which is a stat ID. So this is a really important piece. It's grabbing the local game item. It's grabbing one of the stats. In this case, it's encumbrance weight. What it's looking up there is in the item table. We see mentioned this all the time. Each item has an encumbrance, which is, let's see, encumbrance weight right here. So this one is 0.13. It would multiply the 0.13 by the amount of the number of in the stack. After that, it grabs, I think it normalizes or something. I'm not sure what that's doing. Anyways, we come up with a value. We store that in local weight delta. That's how much we're adding or subtracting. And then over here, we go in and we look at the current encumbrance. I'm not sure what mode is. Really couldn't figure that out. It then adds whatever the current weight that you have in with the delta weight, and that gives you your total weight. Now, this is how the code was here. I was playing around, so excuse me for adding this. Now it'll behave as you'd expect. It'll add all those together and give up your total encumbrance. And that's when you pick up an item. It'll also go through a very similar process whenever you start the game or load your inventory or make any changes at all. This includes subtractions. So I hit play. Hopefully in a moment it'll kick off. Okay, so after a fresh crash, we're going to try again. All right, instantly. That's nice. So on my character, I have presumably a ton of stuff that I've put in my inventory, enough to prevent me from walking, which it does. I think it's like 20 wells, large water wells, and some other stuff. So let's go in and put in my little change, which is just to explicitly set this stat to 0. Let's compile that. Run again. Making no changes whatsoever. Now we can run around. And you can see now that the encumbrance is set to 0. So there's another bit of information that's kind of interesting. In the player controller, not a lot of folks know this, there are a ton of little, if you're admin, a ton of little things to make life easier. You can toggle invisibility mode, you can insta-kill stuff, you can learn a bunch of recipes. This is really nice. Inventory with building pieces, Control-Alt-Shift F9, but let's talk about inventory. So one of the things it does with a Control-Shift number star num key star, it will go out and call server increase encumbrance. So it's calling it to the server. You see we have a run on server event over here, custom event. It's going to go in and say get the player character, then set with notify the encumbrance base. It's going to grab that from the Bp Encumbrance System. This is for your own character. And then add to that plus 25 every time you hit that. And then it goes out and says, okay, go out and recalculate the encumbrance. So let's go back real quick. This is setting it to 0. This is basically saying I've set all the weights to 0. But you can change the base encumbrance value of your guy to just be able to hold more too. So let's play with that a little bit. If we go into inventory, we'll see now that I'm at 2,069%. So if we, what is it? Control Shift number star. I think I have one too many things in here. What do you guys think? Drop, drop, drop. I want to get a little closer to just barely over encumbered. So once we've dropped all these things, gotten to a reasonably close value. Okay, 99% and 79%. So at this, oops, doggone. All right. So we should be good here. If we look at our encumbrance, we're at 79%. And let me make sure I'm hitting the right keys on this one. Control Shift and number star. So let's debug this. Yeah, I'm not hitting it for some reason. Oh, I bet you it's because of numlock or something. Nope. I don't know. Anyways, let's just move on. So it lets you see and lets you adjust presumably the value. It's not letting me, but no big deal. Let me change this to something not weird. Let's make it the end key. Control Shift end. Let's try it again. Oh, I didn't compile. That was probably a mistake. Okay, we're back. How exciting. It definitely ate it. That was not good. So let's go back to where we were. I'm going to try getting this guy set up again. Where the show encumbrance window. Oh, geez. This thing is just huge, and there's just a ton of stuff in there. I think I was looking at maybe the debug key bindings. Nope. All right, so character debug. There we go. Okay. Anyways, I was just changing this to, let's do Control Shift end. See if it's happier with that. I'm going to do compile first, so hopefully it will not crash. That's nice. Let's try running it again. And it should be opening up here. There we go. Okay, so now Control Shift and aha, there we go. So if you look very carefully up in the top, you see my little encumbrance meter in the top right of the bar. If we do it again, Control Shift end, it decreases a little bit. What it's doing is it's changing the top end, the total number of the amount that I can carry. So I don't think it shows anywhere my actual encumbrance. No, it shows it here. So I have a 345 right now, and if we hit it, it goes 370. So you can see we can increase the encumbrance value for a character. That is one way to do it. And if you look in, again, let's go over where exactly that's at. In the Fun Combat player controller, inside of key bindings, character debug, there's increased max encumbrance. So take a look at that. You can see there's a little calculate character encumbrance. You have to run this on the server. It's really important. Otherwise, it's not going to update the primary database and it won't affect your characters. Outside of that, it's pretty straightforward. You just add the total. Now, that is per character. So if you want to give somebody, you know, Titan strength and can carry whatever, great, good on you. If you want to change it across everything, you can change the rules, the way it behaves. Now, in this case, I had an extreme example where I just said, make this literally 0. I could add in a multiplier. There's already one of those underneath. I want to talk a little bit about server settings. Inside of server settings, you have all of these different values. We have the player encumbrance multiplier. These are actually read from a config file in the server. So it'll read this value in, and it actually does the encumbrance multiplier. You can do decimals, but you can't do 0. You can't shut it completely off. So if you want to do completely disable it, you may want to just set the value to 0 here, and that'll take care of it. But that's kind of extreme. I would make it probably a flag or some admin screen that runs on the server, you know, something like that, or saves on the server, I should say. Okay, so for encumbrance, that's pretty much it. There's also an encumbrance debug screen. This is a great overview of how encumbrance works in general. So in the UI, there's actually a debug encumbrance screen. There's a get encumbrance text, which goes through every bit of how the encumbrance system works in one small space, and it spits out that value. You also saw that on the character inventory screen. So feel free to dig on the UI. If you want to get values, it's a really great way to figure out how they calculate out different things, and it can give you really good hints. All right, that's it for encumbrance. I will talk to you guys later. Please leave a comment and let me know if there's anything you'd like to see.